Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of D3 Live. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the rumors we've been hearing about the iPad HD. Now this is going to be something entirely different from what we're expecting to see in the iPad 3, and definitely lines up with a lot of the talk and rumors and all that kind of stuff that we've been hearing. So here's the way it goes. Supposedly here in September, October, somewhere towards the end of the year, we are going to be seeing a new variant of the iPad. So of course the standard iPad 2, it's not going to be replacing it, it's going to be in addition. So of course, like there are different versions of the MacBook, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, etc., etc. There's going to be different versions of the iPad. So what this iPad HD is going to be all about is more of a professional iPad. So of course the current iPad 2, it's great, there's a lot to like about it, but it's definitely aimed at consumers as opposed to professionals. And of course with a touchscreen, with a lot of power, all that kind of stuff, there's some really cool things you can do with it, including video editing, photo editing, audio, the list goes on and on, but there's a lot of really cool things you can do with it, and that's what really the iPad HD is aiming for. So what the major thing about the iPad HD is, as you probably could guess from the name, is that it's going to have a new high-definition screen with roughly the double resolution of the iPad 2. So it'll be a 2048 by 1536 display, which is going to be super high resolution on just a 9.7-inch tablet or whatever is the exact size of it. I would imagine it's going to be about the same size. It's going to be a very high resolution display. Now some of the other things, wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be thicker. The iPad 2 is super thin, so this is going to be more of a professionally oriented tablet. It's not going to be so much for consumers who want super thin and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit bulkier, perhaps a little bit more durable. I don't think it's going to be something really hideous looking or anything like that, but now they think that they're going to try to bulk it up and make it a little bit more towards the professionals. Also, as far as the internal specs go, wouldn't be surprised if it does ship with probably 32 and 64 gigabytes of capacity. 16 gigabytes, I don't really think that's going to be a little bit low end, considering it's going to be more of a high-end device. And also, wouldn't be surprised if it gets a little bit faster of a CPU. Now, it may still have the Apple A5, but it wouldn't be surprised to me, considering it's going to be more of a professionally oriented tablet, that it will probably have something more like 1.2, 1.5 gigahertz, something like that. Now getting away from that and more of the software, I do expect it will still run iOS 4.3, so I don't really foresee any major changes. I think everything will work pretty much the same as it does on the iPad 2. However, one of the biggest things is that some of the apps that should be coming over. Now the iPad 2 currently has several really nice apps, including iMovie and GarageBand, and you can do a lot of work on those. However, I think that they're going to bump it up a notch by perhaps bringing some more professional-oriented applications over, such as Final Cut Pro 10. Final Cut, if you've ever seen it on the Mac, it definitely looks like you could bring it over to the iPad 2 with minimal fuss. Also, perhaps something like Aperture. There's quite a few of the Apple products, more oriented towards professionals that they could bring over to the iPad 2 and really make the iPad HD more of a big thing for professionals. Anyway, for the second segment of D3 Live, I'll be taking live questions from everyone in the chat. As always, every episode of D3 Live is filmed in front of a live audience. We've got quite a few people in the room right now, so let's just take a couple of questions. Flash support in it? Definitely not. I think that the current suite of Apple devices are definitely capable of Flash, but Apple and Adobe, they're just never going to see eye to eye, in my opinion. And so, no, I don't think we will ever see Flash on an Apple device, at least not anytime soon whatsoever. Will there be fully functional versions of Adobe products like Photoshop or After Effects? Now that kind of comes around to the Flash. I think Apple and Adobe still aren't seeing eye to eye. However, with this iPad HD, I think that's definitely something that they're looking for. I think that if they were able to get something like Photoshop or After Effects, or indeed any of the major Adobe products, I think that would be a big boon to the iPad HD. I think that's really what they're aiming for. They want to get people who are looking for like a laptop, like some really high-end laptop with Core i7 and all that kind of stuff to do design work and that kind of stuff, and they want to try to sell you instead, hey, look, this is an iPad, it's got a touchscreen and really high resolution, all that kind of stuff, which there's definitely a lot to be said about being able to touch projects and trim and all that kind of stuff with your fingers as opposed to using a mouse, keyboard, or even worse, a trackpad. Faster CPU. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if they bump it up. They may just leave it. The A5 certainly isn't that bad, but since these are going to be some really professional applications like Final Cut and everything, I'm not 100% sure how a 1 GHz dual-core processor is going to handle that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do bump it up to 1.2, 1.5, or who knows. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. Will it still run iOS, macOS, or some beefed up version of iOS? Personally, I think it's just going to be iOS. I mean, they could make some changes, but I think what a lot of the iPad HD is going to be about is just the apps that it runs. I don't think it's going to be so much about, overhauling it or making this brand new experience, because it's not. I think it's just going to be the iPad with, hopefully more power, and better screen, that kind of stuff, and have the apps that professionals want. So, in my opinion, I think it's going to be the exact same as iOS. I don't think it's going to be any kind of crazy things. Indeed, I think one of the, coming back to the rumors about it, we saw I want to say the end of last year, we saw there was an iBooks update that actually had graphics for a screen like the iPad HD. So I think a lot of these things kind of come together, and that's why I think the iPad HD makes a lot of sense. What will the camera resolution and pricing be? Well, as far as the camera resolution, I'm actually not 100% sure if it will come in cameras, or come with cameras rather, because this is not going to be a consumer-oriented device. It's not going to be just like the Mac Pro. Most people are never going to want to buy one of those, but I don't really see if they actually have to put cameras on there. If they do, I'm sure they'll probably be pretty much the standard things from the iPad 2. I don't really see them stepping that up there. As far as the pricing goes, I would not be surprised if this is going to be much, much more expensive than the iPad 2. So of course, since the iPad 2 starts at about $500, and if Apple really is going with this iPad HD and they're really aiming for that really expensive market where people are paying $1,500, $2,000 for some laptop, maybe even like a MacBook Pro, I wouldn't be surprised if they put this somewhere around $1,000 or so. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's episode of D3 Live. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to subscribe. I do these every Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, so if you subscribe, you'll be notified as soon as I go live, or of course you can just watch the pre-recorded episodes on YouTube.